Alright, so here's what the main lever slide assembly looks like from the underside. Somebody's already re-greased this one. The amber grease has been removed and replaced with molybdenum here and here. This typically I don't recommend greasing just because the grease can get sticky. And that is the case here. This should be free moving. This part gets sticky, which this has here. You can see the old amber grease underneath. We need to clean all that out. And so what we'll do, of course, is Q-tips and alcohol and clean all the old grease out. The reason why you don't want to put grease there is because it gets sticky. It's really just supposed to be a basic frictional surface. This grease has gotten crusty, and that would have been problematic for light tracking with a shutoff. So we're going to clean all that out. You can see underneath here the wear points. You may wish to add a little tiny dab of grease there, or heavyweight machine oil. I'm going to use a heavyweight machine oil instead, assuming I can find my little oiler. They're all the same size, they all look the same. Okay, here's the thick stuff, almost out of this. Put a drop there, and a drop there where everything rides. You also may wish to make sure there's no oil here either. Oil or grease, that should be just a frictionless. Friction surface only, no lubricants of any kind. I'm rambling, sorry. So I'm going to push up on this, and we're going to clean out what's underneath. This one's got some hardened grease there, so we need to scrape. Clean this too, this bearing. We'll use the brush for that. Flip it over. You can see there's more amber stuff on the opposite side. You absolutely want to make sure the old grease is gone. If you don't, you'll just have so many headaches with this. Okay, let's get a new Q-tip. Take great care not to damage or kick out that spring, or you're going to have a hell of a time getting this thing to work. Alright, let's get our brush. And let's saturate this. Again, don't hit the spring. Stay away from that spring. I cannot tell you how important that is. Don't molest the spring. So it's moving freely now. I typically won't put oil back in here or anything that can attract dirt to make this sticky again. It should turn on its own. This might be a good place to try the dental floss trick if I had dental floss. Very tight clearances. And we'll blow on this to dry all the alcohol away and then see if it still works. Okay, so with all the alcohol blown out, you can see that it still moves very freely. One thing I forgot to do when I had the cycling cam out is make sure that this top guy here was cleaned and free moving. So we got to do that. That just saves tremendous wear and tear on the guide, which is here, since that rides inside of it. So we're just going to scrape all this away, saturate it with alcohol in the brush, clean it, and see if we can bust it free. They're almost always frozen. Clean all the junk away from the base here too. Grease will get stuck in there, and then you'll have the inhibiting problem. Okay. Are you frozen? Yes, you are. Alright. So in that case, what I do is I grab a giant pair of needle nose, grab on, and start moving it. And that will, in combination with the alcohol, work the sludgy grease out. Then we'll clean it again since it's been worked out. Okie dokie. This is all happy and free moving now. And I'll stick some thick machine oil in here. This thick stuff is non-detergent 30 weight, by the way, which seems to work well for non-motors. I wouldn't use a 30 weight on an electric motor. You can use electric motor oil, or you can use Zoom Spout, both of which will work fine. Alright, let's drop the cam back in. And then we'll put the slide rail back on. And I'll show you how that works there. Alright, so I'm going to make sure that the record clamping arm is up and to the right, which it is. Alright, so the way that you insert this is move this all the way to the left and keep it there. Next, you want to lift up on this and slide the aluminum thing I just pushed to the left underneath that. And then we're going to very carefully work this back on here. This is always kind of the fun part. I'm hanging up somewhere. Let's stop and take a look. Let's see if moving the arm has any effect on that. I think it should. Yeah, there we go. So we'll move the arm to the left. Oh, let's try that again. This is the fun of putting it back together. And then we have to move the arm back in order to get it seated. Oop, the little thing slid to the right. Let's slide it to the left. Alright, so that fits on there like so. Yeah, you're going to have some fun struggling with this, but the one nut that has the washer that moves is the one that goes back here. And then you have two others. So I'm going to secure this. And we'll put the other two in here. Alright, and then move your cam reset spring back behind that like so. And you can rotate this to check it if you'd like. Oh boy, I just did a dumb thing. I let the ball bearing fall out because I forgot to put that back in. Alright, so I have to find the ball bearing. One moment while I do that. Alright, so we got the ball bearing and stuff put back in. Now if you're an absent-minded knucklehead like me, what you need to remember to do before you turn the turntable right side up again is to reinstall the keeper for the multiple play actuator, which is that guy there. So we're going to put this back in. That will keep the ball bearing from falling out. Now, as far as fitment issues, let me show you something if you can see it. I'm going to shine a light up in there. See how that fits in there? With the little shut-off wand closest to the slide, followed by the aluminum slide. And then on top of that, which you can't really see, is the actuator wand from the record holding arm. So this is on top, the shut-off actuators next, and then the aluminum thing on the bottom. Make sure it's in the right order, otherwise it won't work very well. Okay. So you can do this one of two ways. Let's just move this here like this. I like to check and see if the cam is working okay. So you can either rotate it with your hand underneath, or you can put the platter on and let it do its thing. Oh yes, another important fact. Don't forget to put the little keeper back on the cycling cam so it doesn't drop down. And we'll rotate this. And this should go to a 7-inch position because I haven't, bring the arm up. And let's cycle it again. Drops the record. This should be a 7-inch. Nope. Still wants to shut off. Okay, let's unlatch that. Or it doesn't shut off, it just was manual mode. Okay. 7-inch. There we go. Okay, let's cycle it again. And let's put our finger here to make it believe that there's a 10-inch. There we go. Drops at the 10. And let's cycle it again. And I need 2 fingers this time. Make it believe that there's a 12-inch. And let's see if it goes to the 12-inch spot. Yes, it does. Okay. And let's put this down. Don't worry, there's no cartridge or needle in this thing yet, so. Okay, let's see if we do the shut-off cycle. Brilliant. Okay, so that mechanism works. One last thing I'll do before I put the platter back on is clean and lube the platter bearing. Okay, so with this guy, you'll oftentimes have to pick out the grease with an X-Acto or a dental pick, but once you get it all cleared out, do the same thing with the alcohol in the brush and just make sure it's nice and clean. And you can re-grease the bearings, you can use machine oil. Heavy machine oil is going to work just as well as a light grease. Most people use grease because they claim it makes the platter bearing quieter, but my hearing isn't that good enough to differentiate between the two. I'm going to clean all the gunk out of here, and then I'll just rub my fingers between the top and bottom to make sure that all the ball bearings are moving freely. Which they appear to be. And you may also wish to clean the adjoining surface down where the bearing sits in the two washers. One goes underneath it and one goes on top before the platter goes on. But let's oil this and get it back in the changer and get the platter on it. Okay, so some of you I'm sure are getting to the point where you go to put the platter back on and you don't realize how to get it on. You usually have to pull up on this. Sometimes it requires needle nose for it to drop down. But before we do that, I have our replacement idler wheel. I'm going to put a little bit of oil on here and put our replacement idler wheel I have on there, followed by the little fibrous washer, which goes up top. And then finally, I've got a little tiny clip which goes on over top of it. This you may want a little pair of hemostats or something to get on here. And these ones just happen to be magnetized, which is going to make this a little bit trickier. Okay, so that's happy. Just going to check the fitment there and make sure it hits all the pulleys correctly. It could be down just a smidgen. So remember that little screw I showed you. I'm going to turn that counterclockwise a hair. Alright, so that all mates up now. So now let's get the platter on. It spins pretty freely. A little bit of noise, but not much. Alright, let's get it up on boxes, plug some power into it, and see how it cycles. Alright, so here's the moment of truth. Let's check the speed. Strobe pattern says it's turning at the right speed. That makes me happy. Okay, let's get a 45. Sorry for the jitters here, just trying to grab a bunch of stuff at once. I don't have the multiplay spindle, but I can center it on here. Alright, so let's see if it cycles correctly to 45, the 7-inch position. Awesome. And then let's see if it shuts off at the end. Not picking up on its own. We'll have to address that. But it sets down in the right spot, which is good. Don't worry, folks, these are old chewed up records, and although they are interesting titles, they're trashed and they're not really worth much. Okay, so we're going to put a good old-fashioned 78 on here, see if it'll drop down on the 10-inch position. Nope, arm fell too fast. See, these things are never right the first time. It's all about time constants. Okay, it does pick up that time. I think it was just the movement of the record clamping arm that I had over in the manual position before it finished its cycle. Let's get some lube on the end of plate trip arm. Or the record clamping arm, I guess you could say. Gotta lubricate the bottom part too. It's getting there. Okay. And then finally, let's do a 12-inch. Okay. See if it does the 12-inch right. Yep, there's something in that, something in the main lever is not right. We'll have to see. For some reason, the end of plate is being allowed to trigger before the record sets over. It's inconsistent, which may have something to do with the rest of the tone arm mechanics that we didn't service. Pretty repeatable. Alright, so I cleaned and lubricated a couple of pieces around the arm assembly that we hadn't messed with. Let's see if that affects anything at all. Much better. So this one really should have got the full service rather than the basic one, but your mileage may vary. So now that works correctly. The next video will be doing a full VM service with a different turntable. This guy just really wanted it to turn, and since everything was freezed up, I got it mostly done. So, if it worse comes to worse, he can just play it in manual mode. Anyways, I hope the video was informative to you. When I get the other VM changer in, we'll do a full service, and you can see really what's involved, and that'll give you a better understanding. So, as always, thanks for watching the videos, and more to come soon.